Okay, so we are now going to be starting the panel discussions. We are into panel 1. It's in the media, it's on everyone's minds. Chemicals in water. There's a number of chemicals that we use on an everyday basis, but where do they all go? So on this panel, to kick off the forum, it's chemicals in water, what, how, solutions, and legislation. We have a stellar lineup of experts in this field, and I would like to call them out, and if you could please come to the stage and seat from left to right, leaving the first chair empty, but I will help guide you with that. First of all, Mr. Alistair Boxall, Professor in Environmental Science, Environmental Geography Department, University of York, funded by the Toxicology Risk Assessment towards Sustainable Chemical Use from the United Kingdom. Welcome. Second, Boštjan, Acting Principal of the Centre of the National Laboratory, Health, Environment and Food of Slovenia. Welcome. Next, Ms. Veronika Matuszná, Water Protection Department, Ministry of Environment, Czechia. Next, we have Ljiljana Curcic, Assistant Professor, Vice Dean of Cooperation with Commerce, Faculty of Environment Protection at Educons University, Serbia. And our final panelist, Tatána Halešová, Project Manager, ALS, Czech Republic. Welcome. And we have Dr. Aleš Musar as moderator. Welcome.
Good morning. Our task in the next hour or so is to tell the audience, to ourselves and to the world, I suppose, what is in our water. It's a simple question, seemingly. Apart from, obviously, H2O, the compounds which are there and they're harmful are the ones which interest us. Now, how are we actually qualified to speak about that? I'll start with myself because I'm the least qualified, really. Still, I'm a chemist originally, and my bachelor thesis was the analysis of groundwater pollutants close to Ljiljana. So if I'm not really qualified to speak much about that, I'm at least qualified to ask questions. And in the first round, I will ask a question, let's call it a warm-up round, to everyone. What is your relation with the question we have today? Mr. Alistair Boxall.
Okay, hello everyone. So I did actually load some slides. I don't know if it's possible to share these, and I can sort of sum up what I do in terms of sort of pollution of water. So I've just got a few slides on what I think is a very exciting project that we're just working on.
Well, technical department, the slides, otherwise we can do that later.
Here we go, okay. So my area of interest, so we've heard about microplastics. Another group of pollutants that are really important are the pharmaceuticals. Many of us use them every day. Now, the problem with pharmaceuticals is we emit them to the environment, and when we take a pharmaceutical, we excrete those pharmaceuticals, and they end up in watercourses. And these molecules, because they're designed to interact with us, with receptors in us, and have the therapeutic effect, they're actually very toxic, because the same receptors that occur in our bodies also occur in fish and invertebrates. So these molecules are very toxic in the environment. Now, if we could have the next slide. What I would like to just sort of show you is, what the question was, what's in our waters? This is a study that we've just completed. It's a whole Europe study, includes Iceland, and we'll come back to that later. trying to look at the levels of pharmaceutical pollution across Europe. Can we have the next slide, please? And these are the highlights. So we looked at 31 countries, covering 610 million people. We did a lot of samples, so we analysed over 2,000 samples, and we got data on a lot of pharmaceuticals. So it was 23,000 detections. And of the 54 pharmaceuticals that we were looking for, we detected 52 of them in river waters. One site had 47 pharmaceuticals at that one location. So it's not just single substances in the environment, it's mixtures of substances. And now the scary bit, the most contaminated sites were in Romania and also in Iceland. So this links to, but also the most pristine site, as we've just heard about, was also in Iceland. So we've got this real sort of contrast. So very quickly, if we move to the next slide, I'll just sort of show you the results. You can see that Slovenia is 9th placed in terms of contamination. You're actually worse than the UK, which is surprising. And then we have Romania and Iceland, but this was driven by one location at Iceland, so it's not a reflection of the broad pollution in Iceland. And then we have Spain and Norway. And I'll just show you very quickly some photos of those most contaminated sites. So this is the most contaminated site that we see across Europe. This is in Romania, in the Dambavita River. This location is just downstream of Bucharest, and we think that the explanation for the high concentrations of pharmaceuticals at this site is down to the fact that the water treatment, while it exists in Bucharest, is not that effective. If we move to the next slide, this is the site in Iceland. Now this is close to the town of Selfoss, which actually has quite a small population. But what we think, and if we move to the next slide, the explanation for this is we think that the wastewater treatment at that particular location is lacking. So we've got emission of the wastewater from the population into the river. But I'd like to look on the positive side in Iceland as well. So if we move to the next slide, this is actually the least contaminated site in the study across all the sites we looked at. So this again is just upstream of Selfoss, so it's exactly the same river, and basically we detected very, very low concentrations of pharmaceuticals. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of the group of molecules that I'm interested in, and what we find in terms of concentrations of pharmaceuticals in the environment.
Thank you. We'll come back to the pharmaceuticals, very interesting topic, and as we are laying groundwork for the second panel, which will be about the effects of those contaminants, this is certainly an interesting question for later as well. Mr. Boštjan Križanec, you are heading the National Laboratory. What is that you do?
Yes, hello to everyone. Thank you, Marco, for your nice invitation and to be here on this nice event. Okay, I'm a chemist, and my basic skills are laboratory analysis. I have more than 10 years of experiences in laboratory, but at the moment I'm a principal of the center of the biggest laboratory, national laboratory in Slovenia. And our task is to provide analysis and also sampling and other things connecting in regarding of monitoring of water, but not only water, but also other matrices, food contact material, and so on. So our laboratory is the biggest in Slovenia. We have around 150 employees on several locations, but the biggest and the most equipment laboratory is a laboratory in Maribor, which have all appropriate equipment and knowledge to to trace, to analyze all these chemicals in water and environment. And of course, we do this task according to European legislation, for example, Water Frame Directive, and we try to provide all analyses for these priority list substances and watch list substances, and of course also some pollutions events. So we have this, all this equipment, and if I go to the start, when the question was, what is in the water? Of course, there is a lot of possibilities. What is in the water? I always think about it. Every week, I believe, is more than 10,000 new chemicals is registered, and if only one small percent is coming in our water sources, so you can know then that this is really huge task to catch all the chemicals which are in waters. So for our help, there is new equipment, state-of-the-art equipment, and for example, we have now in laboratory high-resolution Orbitrap mass spec instrument, which is able to analyze, to check, you know, all this group of chemicals, also these pharmaceuticals, to persistent organic pollutants like polyfluorinated compounds and all these emerging contaminants. So this is our task in what we can do, and we analyze daily water for chemicals, and I believe that every day our water is better and better, also because of our knowledge and our contribution to this problem. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Analysis, of course, is extremely important. Analyzing both what is regulated and finding out what is not yet regulated. We'll come back to that. And I think this is also what Veronika Matuszná, do I say that correctly? Correct. Is working in Czech Republic with some different problems there in drinking water.
Good morning to everybody. Speaking of the least qualified, maybe I would compete because I'm working as a civil servant. So without the work of the colleagues from the panel, our work would be like useless because we need data. And the problem with new chemicals being there introduced every day, also the monitoring is better. So it seems like now everything is getting worse, but on one hand, it's also that our technology is getting better. So what is in water, it was there also before, but we just didn't see it. What we try to do at the ministry is trying to take those information and trying to, let's say, push it forward or make the legislation that will work. But this is long, ongoing work. And as it was said in the young presentation, call for stricter and more intensive work on it does not always work. I would like to just mention that people don't like strict. Politicians do not like rules. And, you know, sometimes in Czech Republic now, European Union is being seen as the one holding us back with all the rules. We, for example, in one of the drinking water reservoirs try to do also a different approach, not just because it needs to always be a complex, a great cocktail of measures. I like to say that we need to think globally in the mean of take all the possible measures that you can, but then act locally, and you know you need to make the tailored made solutions for the area that you need to solve. So unlike in Slovenia, where most of drinking water resources come from the ground source, in Czech Republic it is 50-50, being also water that we have in our reservoirs, which is not protected by ground. And sorry. And one of our biggest drinking water reservoir that serves 3 quarters of drinking water for Prague, it is 1.2 million people, is in really high agricultural land. So we need to solve new coming, let's say, pollutants, but we still didn't yet solve the old ones, such as phosphorus and nutrients. And so we need to try not only to apply the strict measures. We have protected zones, of course, applied by the legislation. That's one tool. When we ask the farmers to follow the instructions, but also water managers in this area came with, let's say, voluntary agreements when they ask farmers to reduce their plant protection products in these areas in exchange for some, let's say, financial instruments, because basically what was given by legislation was not enough. And it's not always working in a way that you wish. So this is what we are now thinking of, like really, as I said, the great mixture of measures and also thinking out of the box, because with coming climate change, droughts appearing in Czech Republic, new emerging pollutants seeing every day, and still not yet solved the old problems, we really need to, work together with all sectors. It's not one-man job. It's a group job, and it's task for all of us.
Thank you. It will be an interesting question to find the relation between what you can find in surface water sources and groundwater, because you are monitoring the surface water probably more than other countries because of its use. But Ljiljana Curcic, you are dealing with something which was already mentioned today by our young colleagues. They're not just chemicals on a molecular level in the water, there are also particles of all sorts.
Yes, exactly. Good morning to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Mark for inviting me. It's such a great pleasure and honor to be here among such esteemed scientists and experts in the field of environmental protection and water management. Microplastic is a definitely hot topic nowadays. New findings and research are making headlines frequently, and researchers are trying to find and uncover presence and also impact of microplastic on human health and the environment. And as we all know, microplastic is everywhere. It's in the air that we breathe, it's in the water that we are drinking, it's even in the food that we are eating. And some scientists are saying that now all of us are partially plastic. And the question is, how have we gotten to this situation? Well, we have relentlessly producing plastic for more than over 70 years. Plastic production growth rates have increased faster than the human population growth rates. And even one research noted that we have produced more plastic than the combined weight of all land animals on Earth. And there is no end in the sight. According to European Union plastic strategy, between 5 and 13 million tons of plastic is released into the oceans every year. And also, it is estimated that plastic accounts for more than 80% of all marine litter. Once in the environment, plastic can be degraded into smaller pieces. And that's why we have microplastic and nanoplastic in our environment. And also, it was estimated, according to European Union, that we can find 70 to 350 thousands microplastic in the environment.
Thank you. Yeah, you already started explaining how we get from plastic to microplastic and nanoplastic. Later we'll speak about the biodegradability and what that actually means in that sense. But let me ask Tatána Halešová, you're also from Czech Republic, and you are, I believe, specializing in a field which is was already mentioned by Veronika Matuszná, the agricultural pollutants in our waters.
Good morning. Thank you for invitation too. I'm from ALS. It is an analytical laboratory. It is worldwide laboratory, and we can analyze whatever you remember. And I have to say that I'm here 15 years. It's unbelievable, but I'm here so long. I'm focused on micropollutants, especially for pesticides, pharmaceuticals, and now it is PFAS. I have to say that my way is a little bit different because I am focused on transportation of these compounds from fields, from wastewater, from our households, from healthcare centers, and so on. So I try to describe the way which compounds can reach our sources. In Czech Republic, we have ground and surface water sources for drinking drinking waters, and I help with risk analysis to choose which compounds we have to search in our sources. So now we are monitoring 100 compounds of pesticides, and I have to say that more important than active compounds are also metabolites. That's the thing I would like to talk about it, because metabolites are more polar. They go to drinking water, to groundwater from surface, from fields, and from soils. And they are very persistent in groundwater, and they are here with us more than 20 years. That's what I would like to talk about.
Thank you. Yeah, this is actually relates then to the question, if we do something now, when will we see the effects? But let's go now to the second round, kind of. Pharmaceuticals. It was really intriguing hearing that the least and the most contaminated site in Iceland is on the same river. And here comes the question, how exactly do the pharmaceuticals come into our water? And in addition to that, how can we prevent that?
Yeah, okay, so there's a number of routes. Probably the most important is from us using pharmaceuticals. So when we take a medicine, it comes into our body, it hopefully does the job that it's designed for, but it doesn't stay in our body. We then excrete it, so it goes down the toilet. And in Europe, what will that happen is typically that then will be transported through the sewer network to a wastewater treatment plant. Some pharmaceuticals may be removed in the wastewater treatment, but not all pharmaceuticals are removed by wastewater treatment. So what you see is coming out in the effluent from sewage treatment plants is water containing quite a complex mixture of pharmaceuticals.
Sorry, so it's us.
Yeah.
What makes the little town of Selfos so exceptional? I mean, they're so extremely ill inhabitants or what?
So, I don't think it's, I suspect they're probably quite healthy inhabitants, but actually the molecule or the substance that we see most in Selfos is paracetamol. So everyone knows about paracetamol. I guess most people in the room will have taken paracetamol. Paracetamol is actually one of the pharmaceuticals that is quite well removed by wastewater treatment. So it's a very good indicator of untreated sewage.
So it's headaches really in Selfos.
It's headaches, yeah,
Right.
headaches in Selfos. The other thing that we see a lot of is a molecule called metformin, which is the main treatment for type 2 diabetes. So when we do monitoring in rivers around the world, metformin is always a molecule we see a lot of.
What's the source for that?
Again, that would be the human population primarily.
I mean, what is it used in human population?
Type 2 diabetes treatment.
Sorry.
So it's a reflection of the fact that diabetes or type 2 diabetes is so prevalent globally, but also the amount of the chemical that you would take if you were a type 2 diabetic is quite a high dose each day.
Does it mean that we are overdosing, or is this just how the pharmaceuticals work?
So that's a really good point. I mean, we're here to talk about solutions. So if we go to the doctor, everyone in this room, if we went to the doctor and they prescribed us a medicine, they would probably give us a very similar dose of the medicine. Now, I'm quite heavy, so I might need a high dose, whereas someone who's perhaps lighter, perhaps better health than me, might need a lower dose. So I think, at the moment we would receive the same dose, but one of the, I think, innovative approaches moving forwards is this idea of personalized medicine, where a doctor would begin to target the dose and the pharmaceutical based on what they know about your biochemistry. And that would mean that probably we use fewer pharmaceuticals. We'd probably produce less waste pharmaceuticals. So, a lot of the time, people will go to the doctor will try a medicine, they'll find it doesn't work. They'll then give them another medicine. What that means is you've got waste, and that's another route into the environment. So, I won't ask the audience what they do with their waste medicines, but I imagine most people will throw it in the bin. And what that will typically mean is that it will go to a landfill site, and then potentially it will leach from the landfill to groundwater, or be going to a treatment system and out into the environment again.
Right. Right. So the pharmaceutical industry itself is not a major source of pollution with pharmaceuticals. I mean, it might be other things.
It can be. So it's So I think broadly, it's the population. It's the general population broadly that's the biggest polluter from pharmaceuticals. But if you go to locations, and particularly some locations in either India or sometimes China, where you've got heavy manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, you can see very high concentrations of pharmaceuticals in the river water in those areas. There's a very interesting study that was done about 15 years ago, where they were looking at antibiotics in a pharmaceutical manufacturing area in India. And they found the concentration of one antibiotic, which was about 10 times higher in the river water than it would be in the blood of a patient that was receiving that antibiotic, which is scary. Because, I imagine most people in the room have heard about antimicrobial resistance and the fact that we're running out of antibiotics. We're beginning to recognize that the environment is probably a contributor to antimicrobial resistance, and contamination of the environment is probably contributing to antimicrobial resistance. So these levels that were seen in the manufacturing areas are completely unacceptable. And again, going to solutions, the big pharma industry are working now to try and address that. So they have a code of practice to try and improve manufacturing to reduce emissions of pharmaceuticals. And they've also developed a series of guideline values for their effluents, so they can begin to sort of try and treat the effluent from the manufacturing process to a safe level. Now the problem is, a lot of the antibiotics that are produced globally are produced by generic companies or smaller formulating companies, and they don't have the same degree of stewardship. So I think in terms of antibiotics, we urgently need to sort of try and get that type of approach adopted across the manufacturing sector and do it globally. Because if you get resistant selection in Africa or in Asia, just like we know from COVID that that can get on an aeroplane and it can come to us very quickly and it will spread globally. So
thank you. We'll come to that later. We can regulate the industries easier than we can regulate ourselves on how to do it. And whatever is regulated is analyzed. That's by law, isn't that, Mr. Križanec?
Yes.
But the question really is, what else is there apart from the compounds which are not regulated? Are you actually looking for the other compounds? I mean, with the analytical equipment, you can actually find them.
Yes, this is also our goal, or maybe in the last time the main task to analyze something what is inside and is not regulated. Of course, first task is to analyze all regulated substances like pharmaceuticals, and of course there are other chemicals, especially metabolites, are more and more a problem. And like I said, we have modern technology which helps us to see more and more and lower and lower. And of course, we try to analyze all the compounds which are in the water, and this, like I said, is a huge group of chemicals. Like we are in the jungle, and we try to find which animals are dangerous. If I put the pictures, and of course we analyze these samples with all our equipment and with all our knowledge. Also, our laboratory and also all laboratory in Europe, in the world, and of course all these data are gathering somewhere, maybe in some basis, and we share this knowledge. And on the end, I believe these compounds and these dangerous compounds are coming on regulated list. Yeah? Actually, how it in this way works, this water frame directed and priority substance lists, where we monitor these chemicals, and every 4 years, I believe, this list is updated, and another list is the watch list of some urgent chemicals, or how can I say, and of course these are regulated, but beside, like I said, all institutions, all researchers are getting data to put these chemicals, and especially these chemicals which are dangerous for human health, are on the end, of course, on the regulated list. I believe that European legislation and all this circle to prevent water contamination is doing well, and we are, I believe, very good in this.
Yeah, but how fast does it work? You find something? Did you find something spectacular in the last 10 years, which you didn't expect in the water, and it appeared suddenly, or you just got better equipment and found it?
Maybe, of course, there are some spectacular also, if there are some case problems or incidents, yeah. But we have, for example, now one small study with wastewater to analyze the waters from waste treatment plants, and we can also see, a lot of drugs and metabolites of drugs like cocaine and so on, and this is really strange or unusual for me. Because
I remember a study. They were analyzing not the water, but the banknotes, and finding that some huge percentage of banknotes was contaminated with cocaine. How does cocaine come into water? Is it the same process as with pharmaceuticals? Do you count them as pharmaceuticals? Okay, just asking. I mean, once upon a time it actually was, Coca-Cola and all that. So yeah, drugs. how is then the process of, I mean, I know what with the drugs is a completely different process, but you find some new chemical which is sometimes even kind of fashionable to fight it. What is the process? You inform other laboratories, they search for it, eventually it goes to regulators, and eventually it comes to the list of compounds which are monitored. What is the length of time between finding it the first time and actually regulating it?
I believe it depends. Yeah, is this one occasion, or if, for example, more institutions in Europe or the world will find this problem, this will go faster.
Let's say fluorine compounds. I think they emerged as regulated compounds in the last 20 years or something like that in water.
Yeah, this was a very long process, actually.
Are we speaking 1 year, 10 years, 20 years? I mean, just roughly. I mean,
it was more, maybe in the 10 years.
Because we'll come to the question of time later with Tatána again. It just takes time. So it's not just the time which passes for the compound to go through the whole cycle in the environment, but also to go through the whole cycle in the regulatory process. 10 years. Let's keep that in mind. In Czech Republic, you were monitoring both surface water and groundwater. What are the main differences between the raw water which goes into drinking water sources, between those two sources?
And so the main differences are, in general, again, you can find more compound. It depends on what you monitor. And again, we monitor more intensively the surface waters that are used for drinking water purposes, because we have higher standards, and it is costly. The monitoring is enormously costly. If I can go back to watch list, as was meant, it's always ongoing discussion on what to monitor, because of course there is thousands of compounds, but then you need to really pick those that might be significant in a way of who will pay for the monitoring, because that's money comes from state. And also with the terms of how long it takes, sometimes in the discussions we come to this, because when you find compound, you need to also provide a solution how to manage it. And sometimes you can find compounds that already are forbidden to use because they stayed long, especially if we are talking groundwater that is deep. They're usually cleaner because we have layers of protections. But if you have like waters that are close to surface and the compounds enter it, then you can find them there long time after it was forbidden to use.
If you are finding a compound which is on the watch list, do you try to locate its source? I mean, the polluter.
Well, usually the sources are known. That's how you establish the monitoring. That, for example, there is no sense in monitoring plant production molecules or substances somewhere where there is no agriculture, or you have focused monitoring on chemical compounds somewhere when there is industry. Near the roads, you will look for microplastics from tires. And so we really need to be focused because, as I said, it's costly. So we're not even monitoring every compound in every monitoring site. I'm speaking on the monitoring for the purposes of this, I forgot the main topic of my work, the directive, Water Framework Directive, because it is also not like everyday monitoring. Some compounds you monitor once per year, some on a monthly basis. It depends on various things, and one of them is unfortunately money.
Yeah, we are all into analysis in this panel, and we'll be asking a nasty question to the second panel. Is this really worthwhile doing it this way? Because in pharmaceuticals, when you're taking 3 drugs at the same time, there is always the study of the interaction between them. And we are speaking about getting 47 to 52, or in some cases compounds at the same time, do we actually know, this will be the question for panel 2, how this interaction goes? I will keep with the question about the source, because I'll ask you, Tatána, later about glyphosate and the proposed ban of it, but atrazine, which is again one of the, I think it was herbicide, banned for how many years? 20 years, yeah. No, it's for you. It's been banned for 20 years. Now the question might be, you still find it in the water. Is it because it's just so persistent, or is it because you got farmers who actually buy it on the black market? And if this is your suspicion, would you actually try to chase them?
It's again a compound of all possible ways. When there is a talk about something being banned, what do? You buy a bulk. You got some, some more for when it's banned, so you can still use it. So you have farmers that got some stuff in stock. Then also you have problems when there is an accident, you have a leak. That might be the problem from the leaks from storage places. You have the long time of metabolizing or entering the system. And you have black market, of course.
So it is worthwhile going after the source if you see some new emergence of a compound. Try to find the leak and just stop it eventually. You do that?
Well, we as the ministry don't do that.
Do you
but we have,
ask others to do that?
Yes, we have the agencies, we have, and we fortunately have people who can come and ask, there is a problem, can you solve it? We have an environmental police. Let's say that you can basically solve this kind of, but that's also a long, ongoing process because you need to prove that it's actually this. We have some really substantial problems with compounds entering rivers, and when everything almost died off, and we still, I don't know how long is that, but it's like over, I think, 5 years in Bečva what happened, or 2 at least, and you still, you have a manufacturer that is there, you have the compound, but still you need to prove that it actually comes from this point source, and that's extremely difficult.
I'll go back to Boštjan. I think we had cases in Slovenia with such emergence of compounds, long time banned. What was your role in that?
You have any special hotspot or? Yeah, we are always there. If there is some pollution, if there is some accident, we are always there. Also, this is our task, and we have all the knowledge and all the things that we need. Okay, long-term problem in Slovenia are polychlorinated biphenyls, which we analyzed for a long time from region Bela Krajina.
Dioxin, basically.
Yes, dioxins and polychlorinated biphenyls. This is very old case and huge problem in Slovenia. And then we have on another side some pollutions like also in these floods happening in last years. There was problem with heavy metals because they were coming from depots in rivers, in water and so on.
The sins from the past, really,
yeah,
washing out something which was deposited a long time ago.
And so, if there are some, I don't know, fire accidents, and we analyze then, of course, with connection with our environmental protection agency, Slovenian. We also analyze these waters which are coming from, for example, from a fire incident place, and they go to surface water and further. There was this incident in in production in Novo Mesto a few years ago. And of course, if there are some problem with fish dying, or we are always there to check what is the problem, if these are maybe some pesticides or some other pollutants. So there are many cases. For example, 2-3 times per year we have, some special problem or incident, and then we analyze this special occasion, or how can I say? So we are always there. We can help in any case. Yeah.
Are you two, Czech Republic and Slovenia, following the microplastics in the water? Is that already a thing?
Yes, we have method, but we don't. For this part of analysis, we don't have, state-of-the-art equipment. The main problem is because the methodology or methods for microplastic in analytical point of view, it's not already, very well established. We all know that microplastic is. We all know varies, but when we try to analyze how much, which plastic, and measurement uncertainty, and then to validate this method, and we have huge analytical problems. So these methods are now in developing process, and also for perfluorinated compounds are already established, and there are coming some new. And for microplastic, we wait actually for this standardized method.
Veronika, any other experience in Czech Republic?
Well, microplastics are dealt on the, let's say, platform of projects. It's even a legislation that's we started on the level of European Union. Also, we are searching for how to grab that. What would be really the most beneficial way how to deal with that?
And I suppose Ljiljana is the one who would have the answer when we will get the analytical methods to deal with microplastics. You doing?
Yes, European Union did some progress regarding the microplastic in general. The new circular economy action plan and zero pollution action plan for air, water and soil, both integral parts of European Green Deal, aim to reduce presence of microplastic in the environment by 30% by 2030.
How?
According to the plans that they are making, first of all, methodology needs to be developed about the presence of microplastic, because we need to know how much is there, and then to implement some measures and to see if there is some progress. If
Fine.
there is no progress...
Sorry. Do
yes.
we have an analytical method you can recommend? It's just not through the process, or we don't have it yet?
For now, Joint Research Center made a recommendation regarding the measurement of microplastic in drinking water, and the European Commission adopted that report in March this year. So that's the first step towards analytical method.
I'll insist. Is there an analytical method? You can give the manual to those two and say, this is how you do it?
I believe that we are all working on it.
So the answer is no, fine. Are there ideas how to reduce the microplastics, apart from we need to reduce it by 30%?
Yes, definitely. Apart from the fact that we need to reduce it, we should try some alternative products to use instead of the one that we are currently having. That's one of the steps how to reduce presence of microplastic. Of course, all of us needs to start with the legislation, and since I'm coming from the Republic of Serbia, I'm proud to share the information that Educons University, where I'm currently working, started last year a Greenland project. It's an international project It's actually a 3-year collaboration with Alfred Wegener Institute from Germany and University of Galway from Ireland. Within this project, we are mainly focused on microplastic in the soil and in water. And we are trying to develop scientific, technological, and innovative roadmaps. First, to find out how much plastic is there, and then proper measures to mitigate them. Also, one of the main goals of this project is development of initiative of Republic Serbia to reduce microplastic in the environment, and it outlines a 3-track focus. The first one is on circular economy and as well waste reduction. The second one is focused on innovation and research, and the third one is focused on legislation and capacity buildings.
Right. So if the way to reduce microplastics is to reduce the sources of microplastics, that would mean reducing the use of plastic. Is that it?
Well, where is that manageable? We cannot reduce it completely, definitely.
No. But reducing it by 30% means just reducing it, not banning it completely. So drinking from glass bottles is better in this respect also than drinking from plastic bottles. Do you see in the future a ban on plastic bottles for water?
Maybe it will adopt the strategy to bring it back to the producer, the bottles, and to reduce them and to use them again. So I don't see that it's going to be banned completely.
It's doable but expensive, that's right. Okay, we'll come to the question of biodegradability a bit later, because I would really like to ask Tatána Halešová about the time. We've heard that the regulatory process takes 10 years, roughly. How long does it take for a compound which you're monitoring from being used here and now and then getting to water and remaining in water or soil and being washed to water?
It depends, because the compounds, I said, they are in soil. And after some rain, they are flushed into groundwater, and they are here a long time. But I would like to...
2 months, 10 years?
Years.
Years. We are speaking about years.
And how the more deep they are, the longer time they are staying here, because there's no light, there's no oxygen, there's no microbiological activity, and that's the reason why they are staying here so long. But if I can, I would like to return to regulatory in Czech Republic, because the regulation is not so bad. In Czech Republic, I think we work very well. We have a lot of lists here, but we have to share information between us, between colleagues. And in Czech Republic, there is Czech Association for Water, CZWEA, and we cooperate together. There is a list of pesticides, or in our regulatory, it's written that we have to monitor pesticides which can occur in some location. So we do some risk analysis of occurring pesticide and their metabolites. It's one way. This is for drinking water, but for bottled water, we have new regulatory where we have to monitor 132 pesticides and their metabolites. It's one way we have some information. Other information from the Ministry of Health is about pharmaceuticals. Now we have some recommendation which pharmaceuticals and their metabolites have to monitor. It's the next step. And in a new guideline, in new regulatory is also mentioned PFAS.
Tell me, are there new pesticides occurring on the market? New pesticides, do they come to the market?
Yeah, some new pesticides come to the market, right. And we monitor them too.
In which case, how do you try to find out the metabolites of something which is new on the market?
The regulatory for access of new pesticides is different than it was 20, 30, 40 years before. So when new pesticides are producing ourselves, they are better controlled if they can produce some wrong metabolites.
So it's not just the compound which is monitored, but also its environmental fate.
The degradation better and
if we ban a pesticide or a group of pesticides now, like we are now in glyphosate, close to that, I suppose, for how long will we be still seeing them in the environment?
Long time.
Long?
Again. Yeah. We do some monitoring with triazine pesticides, and it's what was asked colleague with atrazine. Atrazine, there is one mistake, because atrazine is also impurity of producing terbutarazine, which is also allowed. So this is the way how atrazine comes to the environment still. Yeah.
So there are new sources even if it is banned?
Yeah.
And we are speaking about what, 20 years, something like that?
20 years, yeah.
Right.
It would be better if it will rain more.
Oh. Please no, we had this last year.
But I think it also is not true.
Okay, thank you. Well, pharmaceuticals, are they persistent in the environment, Alistair? Or is this a problem of taking the drugs now and getting them out in the environment within days?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any group of chemicals, it depends on the chemical. So some pharmaceuticals are very persistent. Others will degrade very quickly.
I didn't really mean the compounds themselves, but the way the pharmaceuticals come into the environment is through water directly. I mean, it's not soil and washing out for years. What actually happens?
Well, they can enter via soil. So one of the things that can happen to a pharmaceutical in a wastewater treatment plant is it might degrade, it might come out in the effluent, but some might stick to the sewage sludge. And what happens to the sewage sludge? That's applied to land. So we do detect.
Is it not banned now? I thought it would have to be incinerated.
It depends where you live. So some European countries will incinerate it. Some will apply it to land as a fertilizer. So in the UK, we use it as a fertilizer, which on the face of it makes sense.
You're not really a European land.
Yeah, true. But there are European member states that will apply sewage sludge as a fertilizer.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I knew we would get on to Brexit at some point. But yeah, so they can get onto soil. So and that sewage sludge will contain microplastics. It will contain PFAS. And another worrying thing, just to make things more doomy and gloomy, is we've shown that if the pharmaceuticals go onto soil in sewage sludge and you grow a crop on that soil, we can see the pharmaceuticals taken up into the plant, and then it enters the food chain. And then in water-scarce countries, so there's some really interesting work in Israel where, because there's not a lot of water, they're using wastewater to irrigate crops. And there's a really interesting study actually where they took two groups of citizens in Israel. One had a standard diet and the other had a diet from fruits and vegetables grown in these wastewater irrigation areas, and they analysed an anti-epileptic chemical in the urine, and they found that the people eating the crops treated with the wastewater had much higher levels of the anti-epileptic drug in their urine. So we'll be exposed through the food as well.
So it's kind of a secondary pollution. We pollute with as a part of the process of removing the pollutant.
Yes.
And then it's
a
circular
it's
economy
taken up
we
by
don't
crops,
want.
yeah, or it will leach to groundwater, or it will wash off into, like pesticides, into the stream.
How can we reduce the pharmaceuticals coming from us?
I think that there's lots of ways to do it, and I think there's no one solution. So I think we could change our behaviours. If thinking about disposal of unused medicines, most people will just throw their unused medicines in the bin. Most countries, including the UK, have take-back schemes where if you have unused medicines, you go to the pharmacist, you give the medicines back to the pharmacist, and they will dispose of it appropriately, so they won't then enter the environment. The manufacturers could be doing more. So we produced a paper that came out last week calling for greener drug design. So if manufacturers, and I think this could be true for all types of chemicals, if chemical manufacturers could start designing their chemicals so that they're less persistent in the environment, they don't degrade into toxic metabolites, that's a good thing, because then we're not going to have this legacy of chemical contamination that's going to last forever. So making chemicals more greener. And then treatment. There are ways in which you can treat pharmaceuticals. The problem is it's costly. So there was an analysis for the UK about 10 years ago where they were looking at how much it would cost to bring levels of the contraceptive pill in UK rivers to a safe level. And they estimated over 10 years it would cost 28 billion euros in upgrading of wastewater treatment. Now, that sounds expensive, but that treatment would probably remove a lot of other things as well. So it wouldn't just be the contraceptive that would be removed, it would be a whole range of other substances, which could then have benefits in terms of ecology and benefits in terms of human health.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll jump now to Tatána, because there's an interesting point you made. Designing pharmaceuticals with an aim to have less dangerous or less harmful metabolites. Can we do that also with the pesticides?
I think
Think about the metabolites when designing them. Do we do that?
No, I'm not sure, because it is not the part of me about regulatory and about this process. But I think that it is not possible yet.
So we just design them and see what happens?
I think we will look for new, better medicine. But I think this is a little bit different, because it is about our health. So it is these metabolites can cause something in our body, if you agree with me or if you understand me. First step is about health, and the other step is about environment. I think.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a minefield, really, because then we want crops which are more resistant, and that would be gene technologies, and this is another topic for discussion, but not today.
I think it is about technologies, about new technologies, not about different synthesis of pharmaceuticals and thinking about metabolites, if yes or not, but it's about new technologies for elimination residues and entrance these residues into environment. So it is a little bit different mention.
Yeah. Well, if we want to fight it, we need to know what there is to fight, and this is really what the question for the analytical laboratories is. This cycle of pollution through the wastewater treatment is interesting. How do we monitor that, Boštjan?
Yes, of course. Also monitoring for wastewater plants, and also legislation on this field. And all this legislation is however connected, complementary, or how can I say, if I say Water Frame Directive, the surface water and groundwater and wastewater. So also the same or similar compounds or similar legislation and are also in the wastewater directive and in monitoring. So also we do analysis on these matrices. And of course, wastewater is, like we talked already today, is maybe first source of pollution of all other waters in environment. And if we go in the start, the main source of all pollution with chemicals in almost many cases human. And this is, I believe, the biggest, the global task. We can measure and measure and measure, but there is the point on the start, and this is task for all of us, to reduce use of chemicals and to be aware what this means, that if you put, for example, pharmaceuticals directly in the toilet, so this is all circle. I believe monitoring is, however, on the end, we measure already problems, also regulated chemicals, new chemicals, but the start is, I believe, more important. However, this is, okay, chemicals are...
Tatána has something to say about that?
Yeah, I think it's not about the only monitoring of wastewater, of drinking water or surface water, groundwater. It's also about monitoring soils and also about monitoring sludge. Before we add something on land, we have to know what we add, what is new, what is bad.
Which is an interesting question for Veronika. When you're preparing drinking water, how much pollution do you cause by the process of preparing drinking water?
Yeah, I'm absolutely unfamiliar with the process.
No, but,
like in general, the process is you, in a drinking water plant, you take water, you monitor it, and the better quality is at the beginning, the less compound you need to add. Now, if I would talk about this one concrete water reservoir we have on Želivka River that I mentioned at the beginning, they actually applied activated carbon filter, and that's maybe your question, what we will do with the activated carbon when it finishes its life. But that's a question for tomorrow. Now we know how to remove all the compounds that are not removed at the beginning. We can remove them, but what to do with it? Now, it's a washable a few times, but everything ends. So, yes, it's a question, and that's why I said that it always needs to be, the combination of measures, because some measures may cause some harms elsewhere. And that's why I said it's always a group task, because sometimes you just move the problem with the sludge, for example. I am doing the wastewater treatment, I produce sludge, and now it's the problem for the people who deal with for the different sector, and that's not the case.
Yeah, I remember an old study on environmental burden that was many decades ago, calculating what is the environmental burden of using plastic bags versus paper bags. And the answer was not that clear, really, at the end. Ljiljana, microplastics. Basically, we are speaking about the plastic which is degraded into very small portions, still polymeric, not on the molecular level, being particles. Now, we have all sorts of biodegradable plastics. Is biodegradable plastics really degraded completely? Or are we speaking about accelerated process to get microplastics?
Well, there is huge debate about that topic. So there is still a lot of research that has need to be done in order to find actually biodegradable plastic and switch the regular plastic with biodegradable one. And if I may say, because you were talking about the wastewaters, the interesting fact about cleaning wastewaters are that almost 90% of microplastic stays on the filters that are used for wastewater treatment plants. Unfortunately, in the Republic of Serbia, we don't have any wastewater treatment plant. Not even in the largest cities such as Belgrade, Novi Sad, or Niš. And that's also one of the main issues in our country. And also the second one is that we have only 12 legal landfills in our country. So when we are talking about the pollution, not only microplastic pollution, but pollution in general, pollution doesn't know national boundaries. And that's why we should all work together to solve all environmental issues and also microplastic.
Thank you, and this is really a perfect closing sentence for this. International cooperation. Luckily, we have this in Europe. Hopefully, we have the regulation, although the process takes a long time. We know that awareness in all fields could help, both in pharmaceuticals, in pesticides, and in other pollutants which come into water by us. But we also know that it would cost money. So this is a panel where we try to get the answers and finished with a lot of new questions. And we will have the second panel to try to answer some of those questions. Thank you very much, Alistair. Thank you, Boštjan, Veronika, Ljiljana, and Tatána for this panel. Thank you.